The massive Zephrian warship moved through space like a hungry beast. Its dark metal hull stretched for miles, covered in sharp spikes and weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. Inside the ship's command center, Supreme Commander Vrextel stood 8 feet tall, on powerful legs. His reptilian skin, a deep green that shifted to black along his razor-sharp claws. His yellow eyes scanned the star maps floating before him, searching for new worlds to conquer. For 3,000 years, the Zephrian Empire had ruled the galaxy. They were the apex predators, the top of the food chain, the hunters that all other species feared. Their philosophy was simple: consume or be consumed. The strong survived, the weak became food or slaves. It had worked perfectly for millennia. Commander hissed his lieutenant, War Chief Kasara, her own claws clicking against the metal floor. Our scouts report a new species in Sector 7. They call themselves humans. Brextel's lips pulled back, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Humans. Another prey species, no doubt. What do we know about them? They are bipedal, like many of the weaker races. Small bodies, soft skin, no natural weapons. They appear to be spread across several worlds and primitive settlements. Kazara's voice carried the usual contempt reserved for inferior species. They should be easy to harvest. Could take a hunting fleet and bring me samples. Need to study them before we add their worlds to our empire. Far from the Zephrian fleet, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the human exploration vessel New Horizon. The ship was not built for war. It carried scientists, diplomats, and explorers who sought to map the unknown regions of space. Jake was a former Marine who had joined the exploration service after 20 years of military life. He was 42 years old, with brown hair that was starting to turn gray and calm blue eyes that had seen too much combat. "Captain, we're picking up an unknown signal," reported Communications Officer Ryan Walsh from his station. Ryan was 28, fresh out of the academy with red hair and eager green eyes. This was his first deep space mission. "What kind of signal?" Jake asked, sitting forward in his chair.
"Ass!
"It's not like anything in our databases. The pattern is too complex to be natural, but it doesn't match any known alien languages." Chief Engineer Lisa Brown looked up from her console. She was 35, with black hair tied back in a practical ponytail and intelligent brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching our position. Whatever's coming, it's big." Jake felt the familiar tightness in his chest that came before action. "Red alert. All hands to stations." "Ryan, try to establish communication with the approaching vessels." "Aye, Captain. Transmitting standard first contact protocols." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Jake had served with most of them for 3 years, and they trusted each other completely. The New Horizon was not a military vessel, but her crew was skilled and disciplined. "Captain," Ryan said, his voice tight with excitement and fear, "I'm getting a response. It's not friendly." On the main screen, a massive alien ship appeared. It was unlike anything in human records, built for intimidation and destruction. Smaller ships flanked it, their weapons clearly visible and powered up. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration vessel New Horizon." Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "We come in peace, seeking dialogue and mutual understanding." The response came in broken English, heavily accented with hissing sounds. "Humans, you will surrender your vessel and prepare to be taken. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." "Lisa." Brown's fingers flew over her console. "Captain, their ships are incredibly advanced. Their weapons could destroy us in seconds." Jake studied the alien vessels on the screen. He had faced superior forces before, but never anything like this. Still, he kept his voice steady. "This is a peaceful exploration mission. We have no weapons and pose no threat. Why do you want to capture us?" "Because we are Zephrians," the alien voice replied with obvious pride. "We are the apex predators of this galaxy. You are prey. That is the natural order." The word sent a chill through the bridge crew, but Jake remained calm. He had been in hostage situations before, and he knew that panic would get them all killed. We would like to discuss this with your leader. Perhaps we can reach an understanding. There was a long pause, then harsh laughter from the alien communication. You wish to speak with Supreme Commander Vrextile? Musing, small prey rarely speaks. Before it is consumed, nevertheless, I request an audience. Another pause. Jake could hear the aliens talking among themselves in their own language. Finally, the voice returned. Very well. You will be brought aboard our ship. Any attempt to resist or escape will result in the destruction of your vessel and the death of your crew. Understood? We will comply peacefully. Jake turned to his crew. Lisa, Ryan, you're with me. Commander Parks, you have the bridge. If we don't return in 24 hours, take the New Horizon home and report everything to Admiral Hayes. Commander Parks, Jake's second in command, was a steady man in his 50s with gray hair and worried eyes. Captain, I don't like this. We know nothing about these aliens or their intentions, neither do I, but we don't have much choice. If we try to run, they'll destroy us. If we fight, they'll destroy us. Our only option is to try diplomacy, Lisa. Brown gathered her equipment, including a small scanner hidden in her toolkit. Captain, I'll try to learn as much as I can about their technology. Ryan Walsh downloaded the alien communication files to a portable device. I'll work on their language, sir. The more we understand them, the better our chances. 20 minutes. Later, the three humans stood in the New Horizons docking bay as an alien transport ship attached to their hull. The bay filled with a strange, acrid smell as the alien atmosphere mixed with their own. The transport's doors opened with a hiss, and 3 Zephrian warriors entered. They were terrifying. Each stood nearly 8 feet tall with powerful legs, and arms ending in claws that could tear through steel. Their reptilian skin was covered in natural armor, and their yellow eyes held the cold intelligence of born predators. They moved with the fluid grace of hunters, every step calculated and threatening. The lead warrior, Warchief Kasara, looked down at the humans with obvious disdain. You are smaller than expected, weaker. This will be easy. Jake met her gaze. Without flinching, we are here to talk, not to fight. All prey says that before the hunt begins. Kasara's laugh was like breaking glass. Come. The commander wishes to examine you before you are processed. As they were led to the transport ship, Lisa Brown discreetly scanned the alien technology with her hidden device. The materials were incredibly advanced, but she noticed something interesting. The ship's design was built for intimidation and brute force, not efficiency. There were weaknesses in the structure that a good engineer might exploit. Ryan Walsh listened carefully to the aliens' conversation, his trained ear picking up patterns in their language. They seemed to view humans as they would view cattle or sheep. Discussing the best ways to contain and study them, Jake observed everything with the calm assessment of a combat veteran. The aliens were strong and dangerous, but they were also overconfident. They had clearly never encountered resistance from their prey species. That overconfidence might be their weakness. The transport ship carried them to the massive Zephrian vessel, and Jake got his first look at the alien empire's power. The ship was a floating city filled with thousands of warriors and support staff. Everything was designed to project strength and dominance. But Jake Morrison had learned something important in his years as a Marine. The strongest opponent often had the most to lose. And sometimes, the prey was more dangerous than the predator realized. As they were led through the ship's corridors toward their meeting with Supreme Commander Vrextile, Jake made a silent promise. Whatever these aliens had planned, humanity would not go quietly into the night. The Zephrians thought they were dealing with helpless prey, but they were about to learn that humans were something entirely different. The hunt was about to begin. But the question was, who would be the hunter? And who would be the prey? The massive doors to the command chamber slid open with a deep rumble. Jake Morrison walked between 2 towering Zephrian guards, with Lisa Brown and Ryan Walsh close behind him. The chamber was enormous, its walls covered in trophies from conquered worlds. Skulls of various alien species hung like decorations, and weapons from defeated armies were displayed as symbols of victory. At the center of the room stood Supreme Commander Vrextile. He was larger than the other Zephrians, his scales a deeper green with silver markings that showed his rank. His yellow eyes studied the humans like a scientist examining insects. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber. "So these are the humans," Rextal said, circling around the three captives. "Bipedal like the Centauri, small like the vegan miners, soft skin like the Rigel farmers. Tell me, human, what makes your species special? What makes you different from the thousands of other prey races we have conquered?" Jake stood straight, his hands relaxed at his sides. I had learned long ago that showing fear to bullies only made them stronger. We're explorers, not prey. Came here seeking knowledge and friendship. Frextal's laugh was like grinding stones. "Friendship? You speak of friendship to apex predators? You see these trophies around you? Each one represents a species that thought they were special. The Interrans believed their telepathic abilities would protect them. Corvin thought their technology was superior. The Nexari trusted in their gods. They were all wrong." "Maybe they were wrong because they fought alone," Jake replied calmly. "Humans don't fight alone." War Chief Kasara stepped forward, her claws extended. "This one shows no proper fear, Commander. Perhaps a demonstration is needed." Rextal agreed. "But first let us learn more about them." "Take them to holding cell 7. Place them with the other specimens. I want to observe their behavior." The humans were led through corridors filled with alien prisoners. Jake saw dozens of different species, all cowering in fear. Some were small and gray, others were tall and thin. Few had fur, others had feathers. All of them had the same look in their eyes, the broken spirit of prey animals who had given up hope. The holding cell was a large room with energy bars instead of walls. Inside were 20 prisoners from various worlds. They huddled in small groups, afraid to make eye contact with their captors. When the humans were pushed inside, the other prisoners moved away, creating empty space around them. "Great," Ryan whispered. "They're afraid of us too. Can you blame them?" Lisa replied quietly. In their experience, new arrivals usually mean someone's about to be taken away. Jake studied the cell carefully. The energy bars were sophisticated. But Lisa was right about Zephrian technology. It was powerful, but not elegant. There were ways to disrupt the field if you knew what to look for. One of the prisoners, a small gray alien with large black eyes, approached them cautiously. "You are the new species," he said, in broken English. "The humans. I am Zix of the Goler. System. We have been watching the communications." "How long have you been here?" Jake asked. 3 cycles. My people were taken for the arena games. Only I remain." Zix's voice was sad, but not broken. "The Zephrians enjoy watching prey species fight each other. It amuses them." "That's horrible," Ryan said. "It is their way," Zix replied. "They believe strength is the only truth. The weak exist to serve the strong. Your species will learn this soon." Lisa knelt down to Zix's level. "Has anyone ever tried to escape?" "Many have tried. None have succeeded. The Zephrians are too strong. Too fast. Their technology is beyond us." "Maybe," Lisa said thoughtfully, "but every system has weaknesses." Over the next few hours, Jake talked to the other prisoners. He learned that the Zephrians had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They took the strongest individuals from each species for gladiator games, the smartest for scientific experiments, and the rest for labor. Entire civilizations had been reduced to slavery. But Jake also noticed something the Zephrians had missed. Each species had different strengths. The Goler, like Zix, were excellent at electronics. The tall Vorthan were skilled engineers. The furry Keldon had incredible hearing. Zephrian saw only prey, but Jake saw potential allies. "Listen to me," Jake said quietly, gathering the prisoners in a circle. "The Zephrians think we're all helpless prey. But what if we're not? What if we work together?" A large Vorthan named Trowel shook his head. "Impossible. They are too strong. We have seen what happens to those who resist." "I've seen strong enemies before," Jake replied. "Strength isn't everything. Sometimes the smaller, smarter opponent wins." Lisa had been studying the cell's energy barrier with her hidden scanner. Jake, I think I can disrupt the field for a few seconds. It's not long enough to escape, but enough to show it can be done. Do it, Jake decided. Lisa made subtle adjustments to a piece of equipment she had disguised as a medical device. The energy barrier flickered and went dark for 3 seconds before returning to full power. The prisoners gasped in amazement. How did you do that? Zix asked, his large eyes wide with wonder. Every system has a frequency, Lisa explained. The right frequency, and you can disrupt it. The Zephrians built their technology to be powerful, not secure.
Here.
Meanwhile, in the command center, Vrextal watched the prisoners through hidden cameras. He had seen the energy barrier flicker and was puzzled. No prisoner had ever managed to affect their containment systems before. War Chief, he called to Kessera. Run a diagnostic on holding cell 7. Something is wrong with the barrier. Yes. Commander? Claws clicked as she worked the controls. The system shows no faults. All parameters are normal. Vrextal's eyes narrowed. Then why did the barrier fail? Perhaps a power fluctuation. These old systems sometimes have minor glitches. But Vrextal was not convinced. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. Something was different about these humans. Back in the cell, Jake was organizing the prisoners. Zix, you understand their computer systems. Can you access their communication network? Not from here. But if I could reach a terminal, perhaps. Trowel, you're an engineer. What do you know about their ship structure? The tall Vorthon considered. The ventilation system runs through the entire ship. The passages are too small for Zephrians, but some of us might fit. Good. What about weapons? A small, furry Keldon named Pim spoke up. They keep confiscated items in Storage Bay 12. Our personal effects, tools, everything. Jake smiled. So we have intelligence, we have access routes, and we have equipment. What we need now is a plan. You're talking about fighting back, Zix said quietly. The Zephrians will kill us all. They're going to kill us anyway, Jake replied. The question is whether we die as prey or as fighters. Ryan had been listening to the guard communications through the cell's audio system. Captain there. Planning something called a selection ceremony for tomorrow? From what I can understand, they're going to choose some of us for their games. Then we don't have much time, Jake said. Lisa, how long do you need to create a bigger disruption? Give me 6 hours and some basic materials. I can build something that will take down their entire security grid for maybe 10 minutes. Not long enough to escape? Trowel protested. No, Jake agreed. But it's long enough to send a message. As the ship's lights dimmed to simulate night, the prisoners settled into their sleeping areas. But Jake Morrison lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in space, the rest of humanity had no idea that first contact had been made. They didn't know that their representatives were prisoners on an alien ship, classified as prey animals. But they would know soon. Jake had spent 20 years as a Marine, and he had learned an important lesson. You never leave your people behind. The Zephrians thought they were dealing with helpless prey, but they were about to discover that humans were something entirely different. The Supreme. Commander might rule through fear and strength, but Jake Morrison had something more powerful. Hope. And hope, he knew, was the most dangerous weapon of all. Tomorrow, the Zephrians would learn their first lesson about humanity. Prey doesn't organize. Prey doesn't plan. Prey doesn't fight back. But humans weren't prey. They were something Zephrians had never encountered before. Apex predators who hunted in packs. The transport ship descended through the thick atmosphere of the jungle moon. Jake Morrison pressed his face against the small window, studying the terrain below. Dense green forests stretched to the horizon, broken by rivers and rocky hills. It looked like a tropical paradise. But Jake knew better. This was a hunting ground, and they were the prey. Listen carefully, War Chief, Kessera announced to the 30 prisoners crowded in the transport. You will be released on the surface. You have 6 hours before the hunt begins. Use this time wisely. Run, hide, do whatever prey does. When the predator comes, she pointed to a device on her wrist. These trackers will monitor your location. If you try to remove them, they will explode. If you try to leave the hunting zone, they will explode. Your only goal is to survive as long as possible. For our entertainment, Jake looked around at the other prisoners. Most were terrified, but a few met his eyes with determination. Zix, the small gray goaler, sat nearby with a modified communication device Lisa had helped him build. Tral, the tall Vorthan engineer, clutched a crude map he had drawn of the ship's layout. Pim, the furry Keldon, kept his sensitive ears turned toward the guards, listening to their conversations. "What happens if we survive the hunt?" asked a blue-skinned Regelian named Cora. Kasara's laugh was like breaking glass. "No one survives the hunt. Some last longer than others, but in the end, all prey falls to the predator. The longest any species has lasted is 18 hours. Most die within 4. Ah! The transport landed with a heavy thud. The doors opened, and hot, humid air poured in. The smell of growing things and rotting vegetation filled their nostrils. Jake heard the sounds of a living jungle, bird calls, insect buzzing, and the distant roar of some large animal. "Go," Kasara ordered. "Your 6 hours begin now." The prisoners scattered in different directions, most running blindly into the forest. But Jake had spoken to his group during the flight, and they moved according to plan. Instead of running, they walked calmly toward a cluster of large trees about a mile from the landing site. "This is crazy," whispered Trell as they moved through. "The underbrush? We should be running as far as possible." "Running won't help," Jake replied. "They have trackers on us, and they know this terrain. We need to think like soldiers, not prey." Lisa Brown carried a bag of equipment she had gathered from the ship's storage. The Zephrians had let them keep basic tools, assuming prey wouldn't know how to use them effectively. They were wrong. "Jake," she said quietly, "I've been studying the tracker signals. They're simple radio transmitters. I can build a device to block them, but it will only work for a few minutes at a time. That's all we need," Jake said. Short bursts of invisibility to move between positions. They reached the cluster of trees and began setting up their base. Jake had chosen this spot carefully. The trees were large enough to climb, with thick canopies that would hide them from above. A small stream provided fresh water, and there were several escape routes through the jungle. "Zix," Jake called softly. "Can you tap into their communication network?" The small alien worked quickly with his modified device. "Yes, I can hear them. Hunting party is preparing to leave their ship. 12 warriors, led by War Chief Kasara herself. 12 against 30, Ryan Walsh calculated. Those aren't bad odds." "For them," Jake agreed. "But they don't know we're not planning to run." Lisa had been studying the jungle around them. Its vegetation is perfect for camouflage. Some of these plants have interesting properties. She held up a vine with purple flowers. This produces a mild paralytic poison. Not enough to kill, but enough to slow down a large predator. "Good," Jake said. "Start preparing traps. Pim, use your hearing to track the hunters. Tral, help me build elevated positions in the trees. Everyone else, gather materials for weapons and obstacles." The 6 hours passed quickly. Jake's group worked with military precision, turning their section of jungle into a tactical maze. They dug pit traps covered with leaves and branches. They strung tripwires that would trigger falling logs. They prepared slings and spears from jungle materials. Most importantly, they established communication signals and escape routes. As the sun began to set, Urt Six's device crackled with alien voices. "They're coming," he reported. 12 hunters moving fast through the jungle. "They're tracking the other prisoners first." "Let them," Jake said. "We're not going anywhere." The sound of blaster fire echoed through the forest, followed by screams. The other prisoners were being picked off one by one, just as Kasara had promised. Jake felt sick, but he knew they couldn't save everyone. Their only hope was to prove that humans were different. "Movement to the south," Pim whispered, his ears twitching. 3 hunters, about half a mile away. "Right on schedule," Jake said. "Remember, we're not trying to kill them. We're trying to teach them a lesson." The first Zephrian hunter crashed through the underbrush like a charging bull. He was 7 feet tall, with dark green scales and glowing yellow eyes. His claws were extended, and he carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. He paused at the edge of their camp, sniffing the air. "Humans," he growled. "I smell your fear." "I don't think you smell what you think you smell," Jake replied from his position high in the trees. The hunter spun around, trying to locate the voice. "Show yourself, pray. Make this easy." "Easy is boring," Jake said. "But if you insist..." He dropped from the tree, landing behind the hunter. But instead of attacking, he rolled away and disappeared into the undergrowth. The hunter roared and charged after him, straight into Lisa's first trap. The pit was only 4 feet deep, not enough to seriously injure a Zephrian, but enough to tangle his legs in the carefully placed vines. As he struggled to free himself, purple flowers broke open, releasing their paralytic pollen. "What is this?" Hunter snarled, his movements becoming sluggish. "Jungle chemistry," Lisa called out from somewhere in the trees. "Don't worry, it won't kill you. You'll just be very sleepy for a while." The hunter tried to fire his weapon, but his aim was off. The energy blast struck a tree, setting it on fire. The flames spread quickly, filling the air with smoke. "Fire!" Pym reported from his lookout position. "2 more hunters approaching from the east." "Good," Jake said. "Bring them on." The next 2 hunters were more cautious, having heard their companions' struggles. They moved slowly through the jungle, weapons ready. But Jake had learned something important about Zephrians. They were individual fighters, not team players. "Split up," one hunter told the other. "Cover more ground." It was exactly what Jake had hoped for. When the hunter separated, Trowel triggered a trap that sent a heavy log swinging down from the trees. It struck the first hunter in the chest, knocking him to the ground. He wasn't seriously hurt, but he was stunned and angry. The second hunter charged toward the sound, only to find himself caught in a net made from twisted vines. As he struggled to break free, Ryan Walsh appeared from behind a tree. "You know what's interesting about humans?" Ryan said conversationally. "We hunt in packs." The hunter snarled and tried to grab him, but Ryan was already moving away. As the alien freed himself from the net, he found himself surrounded by the other prisoners, all armed with simple weapons, but working together. "This is impossible." The hunter gasped. "Prey doesn't hunt predators." "That's your first mistake," Jake said, stepping into view. "We're not prey, we're humans." Back at the Zephrian ship, Supreme Commander Vrextel watched the hunt through his warrior's helmet cameras. What he saw made no sense. The humans weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were fighting back with tactics he had never seen before. "Commander," reported one of his technicians, "we're losing contact with the hunting party. Their signals are being disrupted." "How is that possible?" "Unknown, sir. But 3 hunters have gone silent, and the others are requesting reinforcements." Vrextal's claws extended unconsciously. In 3,000 years of conquest, no prey species had ever required reinforcements. "Send more warriors. Double the hunting party." "Sir, regulations state that Category 3 prey only requires standard hunting protocols." "These are not standard prey," Vrextal growled. "These are something else entirely. The jungle." Jake Morrison smiled as he heard the sound of more transport. Ships landing. The Zephrians were sending reinforcements, which meant they were worried. And worried predators made mistakes. The hunt was far from over. But already the humans had accomplished something no other species had managed. They had made the apex predators of the galaxy doubt themselves. The real lesson was just beginning. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood in the command center of Earth's military headquarters, staring at the star chart on the main screen. 3 days had passed since Captain Morrison's last transmission, and the silence was deafening. Around her, the best minds in the human military worked frantically to locate the missing exploration vessel. Admiral called Colonel Marcus Stone from his position at the tactical station. Marcus was a career soldier, 51 years old, with gray hair and steel-blue eyes that had seen too many battles. "We finished analyzing Captain Morrison's final transmission. The alien ship's energy signature suggests technology far beyond anything we've encountered." "How far beyond?" Admiral Hayes asked. She was 55, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, and a voice that commanded respect. She had risen through the ranks during humanity's expansion into space, and she knew how to make hard decisions. At least 500 years ahead of us, possibly more, replied Dr. Amanda Clark from her science station. Amanda was 38, with blonde hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She was the military's top expert on alien technology and had been studying Jake's data for 3 days straight. Their weapons, shields, and propulsion systems are incredibly advanced. But every technology has weaknesses, Marcus added. Clark has identified some interesting patterns in their ship design. Amanda pulled up a holographic display of the alien vessel. Look at this, Admiral. Their ship is built for maximum intimidation and firepower, but the design is inefficient. They prioritize showing strength over tactical flexibility. What does that tell us about them? Admiral Hayes asked. They're bullies, Amanda said simply. They rely on fear and superior firepower to win battles. They probably haven't faced serious resistance in a very long time. Admiral Hayes studied the data carefully. As a military leader, she understood the importance of knowing your enemy. Colonel Stone, what's the status of our rescue fleet? Ready to launch in your command, Admiral? 3 destroyers, the USS Vigilant under Captain Danny Rodriguez, plus support ships. Marine units are standing by under Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Miller. Admiral Hayes nodded. Captain Rodriguez was one of their best commanders, and Sandra Miller had trained some of the finest Marines in the fleet. Dr. Clark, I want you on the mission. If we encounter this alien technology, we'll need your expertise. Yes, Admiral. I've prepared some modifications to our ships based on what we learned from Captain Morrison's data. What kind of modifications, Amanda? Smiled for the first time in days. If I'm right about their weaknesses, we might be able to level the playing field. 2 hours later, the human rescue fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for the last known position of the New Horizon. Admiral Hayes remained on Earth, coordinating the mission from headquarters. But her thoughts were with the brave men and women heading into unknown danger. Meanwhile, on the Zephrian battle station Apex Talon, Supreme Commander Vrextal faced his first crisis of leadership in centuries. The failed hunt on the jungle moon had sent shockwaves through the Zephrian fleet. For the first time in recorded history, prey had outfought their hunters. Explain to me again how 12 of our finest warriors were defeated by 30 weak aliens, Vrextal demanded, his yellow eyes burning with rage. War Chief Kasara stood at attention, her usual confidence shaken. The humans organized the other prisoners. They used primitive traps and coordinated attacks. They fought like ... like a pack. A pack's Vrextal's voice was dangerous. Are you telling me that prey animals hunted our warriors like predators? Commander, they showed no fear. Instead of running, they stood and fought. Instead of panic, they showed discipline. Instead of individual survival, they worked together. The bridge fell silent. Other Zephrian officers looked uncomfortable. The idea that prey could become predators challenged everything they believed about the natural order. Perhaps, suggested Sub-Commander Grexstar, a younger warrior with ambitious eyes, we have underestimated this species. Perhaps they are not. Category 3 prey. Rexstal's claws extended. Are you questioning my judgment? No, Commander. But the evidence suggests these humans are something new, something we have never encountered before. Before Vrextal could respond, alarms began sounding. Throughout the ship, Commander, reported the sensor officer, multiple ships approaching at high speed. Unknown configuration. On screen, Vrextal ordered, the main display showed 3 human destroyers emerging from hyperspace. They were smaller than Zephrian ships, but they moved with purpose and precision. Captain Danny Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system. This is Captain Rodriguez of the human fleet. We demand the immediate release of our people. We know you have taken prisoners from the exploration vessel New Horizon. Vrextal laughed, his confidence returning. 3 small ships against our entire battle group. These humans are even more foolish than I thought. Commander, the sensor officer reported, their ships are scanning us with some kind of new technology. Ouch. Our shields are fluctuating. Impossible. Our primitive species could affect our defenses. But as Vrextal watched, the human ships began, moving in a coordinated pattern unlike anything he had seen before. Instead of charging forward like brave predators, they spread out and began circling the Zephrian fleet. What are they doing? Kasara asked. I don't know, Vrextal admitted, but I don't like it. Aboard the USS Vigilant, Captain Danny Rodriguez. studied the alien fleet through the tactical display. Danny was 43 years old, with dark hair and brown eyes that reflected his Hispanic heritage. He had grown up in the rough neighborhoods of Los Angeles and had learned that sometimes the smaller fighter could win if he was smarter and faster. "Dr. Clark," he called to the scientist at her station, "are your modifications working better than expected, Captain?" Amanda replied. "Their shields operate on a fixed frequency. By constantly changing our scanning patterns, we're creating interference in their defensive grid. Outstanding. Commander Miller, are your Marines ready?" Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Miller was 39 years old, a compact woman with short, brown hair and fierce determination. She had led Marines in a dozen conflicts and had never lost a soldier under her command. "Ready and waiting, Captain? Just get us close to their ship."
Yes.
"That's the plan," Danny said. "But first, let's see how they handle a little human creativity." The human ships continued their circling pattern, but now they began something the Zephrians had never seen before. Coordinated electronic warfare. Dr. Clark's modifications allowed them to disrupt the alien communication systems, creating confusion among the Zephrian fleet. "Commander," the Zephrian communications officer reported, "we're losing contact with our escort ships. Our targeting systems are malfunctioning." "How is this possible?" Rexdal demanded. "The human ships are working together," observed Subcommander Grexstar. "Each one covers the weakness of the others. We target one, the others protect it." Rexdal watched in growing frustration as his superior fleet was outmaneuvered by 3 smaller ships. The humans didn't fight like individuals seeking glory. They fought like a single organism with multiple parts. "All ships, attack formation," he ordered. "Destroy them now." But as the Zephrian vessels moved to attack, the human ships did something unexpected. Instead of retreating or fighting directly, they used the aliens' own aggression against them.
When one Zephrian ship charged
Forward, the humans led it into the firing line of another alien vessel. When the Zephrians tried to surround them, the humans slipped through gaps in their formation. "They're making us fight each other," Kezara realized in horror. "Impossible," Vrextal snarled. But even he could see what was happening. His own ships were accidentally targeting each other in their eagerness to destroy the human fleet. Aboard the Vigilant, Danny Rodriguez smiled grimly. "That's it, people. Keep them confused and angry. Angry predators make mistakes." Captain Dr. Clark reported, "I'm detecting the New Horizons crew on the alien command ship. They're alive. Good news." "Commander Miller, prepare for boarding action." "With pleasure, Captain." As the space battle continued, something fundamental was changing in the balance of power. For 3,000 years, the Zephrian Empire had relied on individual strength and superior technology to dominate their enemies. But they had never faced an enemy that fought as a coordinated unit, using intelligence and teamwork instead of brute force. The humans were teaching them a lesson that would echo through the galaxy. Sometimes the pack was stronger than the lone predator, and this was only the beginning. The alarms on the Zephrian command ship screamed as another explosion rocked the massive vessel. Jake Morrison crawled through the ventilation shaft, following the route that Trowell had mapped during their captivity. Behind him, Lisa Brown carried her improvised electronic warfare device, while Ryan Walsh monitored alien communications through his modified equipment. "Jake," Lisa whispered, "I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout their ship. Our rescue fleet is really giving them trouble." "Good," Jake replied. "That means they're distracted. How much farther to the command center?" 2 more sections," Ryan answered, listening to his earpiece. "Right. But Jake, I'm hearing something else. The Zephrians are calling for their entire fleet. Every ship in their empire is heading this way." Jake paused in the narrow shaft. The rescue of 3 humans had escalated into something much larger. "Then we better end this before they arrive." On the bridge of the USS Vigilant, Captain Danny Rodriguez watched the tactical display with growing concern. The 3 human destroyers had successfully confused and damaged the Zephrian battle group, but his sensors were picking up massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. "Dr. Clark," he called, "what are you reading?" Amanda Clark's face was pale as she studied the incoming data. "Captain, it's their entire fleet. It's over 200 ships, all heading our direction. They'll be here in 30 minutes. Can we run? With our people still on that ship, Danny made the decision that would define the rest of the battle. Then we don't run. Commander Miller, get your Marines ready for that boarding action. We're going to finish this before their reinforcements arrive. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Miller was already suiting up her Marines when the call came. Roger that, Captain. My people are ready to bring our boys home. There's more at stake here than just a rescue mission, Danny said quietly. If we fail, these aliens will know exactly where Earth is. They'll come for our home world with everything they have. Sandra's jaw tightened. Then we don't fail. Meanwhile, in the Zephrian Command Center, Supreme Commander Vrextel was learning what panic felt like. His superior fleet was being outmaneuvered by 3 smaller ships. His command structure was failing due to electronic interference, and now he had reports of humans moving freely through his ship. Find them, he roared at his security chief. Find the escaped prisoners and kill them. Commander War Chief Kasara said carefully, perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. Vrextal spun toward her, his claws fully extended. Negotiate. With prey you forget yourself, War Chief. Look around you, Commander. Our sensors are being jammed by their primitive technology. Our hunters were defeated by their crude tactics. Our fleet is being outfought by their smaller ships. Are these really the actions of prey? They're lucky, Vrextal snarled, but his voice lacked conviction. No, said Subcommander Grextar, stepping forward. They are different. They fight like no species we have ever encountered. They show courage without arrogance, intelligence without cruelty, and they work together like a single organism. Enough, Vrextal shouted. I will not listen to this weakness. When our fleet arrives, we will destroy these humans and their homeworld. We will show the galaxy what happens when prey dares to challenge the apex predator. But even as he spoke, Jake Morrison and his team were moving through the final ventilation shaft toward the command center. Lisa had already disabled 3 security systems. While Ryan had successfully disrupted their internal communications, the Zepharians were fighting blind and confused. Jake dropped from the ceiling vent directly behind the main control console. Before the Zepharian technicians could react, he had disabled their weapons control and shield generators. Lisa emerged from another vent and immediately began working on the ship's power core. While Ryan took control of their communication system, attention all Zephrian ships, Ryan broadcast on all frequencies, using his knowledge of their language. This is the human prisoner speaking. We have taken control of your command vessel. The bridge erupted in chaos as Zephrian warriors rushed toward the humans. But Jake had learned something important during their imprisonment. Zephrians were individual fighters who had never learned to work as a team. They got in each other's way, competed for the glory of the kill, and failed to coordinate their attacks. Jake dodged the first warrior's claws and rolled toward the command chair where Vrextal stood. Supreme Commander, he said calmly, I think. It's time we had that talk. You dare approach me, prey. Vrextal's yellow eyes burned with rage. I'm not prey, Jake replied. And neither are my people. That's what you never understood. Lisa had reached the ship's main computer core. Jake, I can shut down their entire fleet from here. Their ships are all linked to this command vessel. Do it, Jake ordered, never taking his eyes off Vrextal. No. Vrextal roared, lunging toward Lisa with his claws extended. Jake intercepted him, using his marine training to turn the alien's greater strength against him. As Vrextal stumbled, Jake spoke again. This is what you don't understand about humans. We don't fight for dominance or territory. We fight to protect each other. The ship's lights flickered as Lisa's sabotage took effect. Throughout the Zephrian fleet, weapons systems shut down and shields collapsed. Captain Rodriguez immediately seized the opportunity. All ships, attack now, he broadcast to his small fleet. Target their engines and weapons. Disable, don't destroy. The human ships moved with deadly precision, their coordinated attacks crippling one Zephrian vessel after another. But the alien reinforcements were getting closer in the command center. Vrextal struggled to understand what was happening. This is impossible. We are the apex predators. We've ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. You ruled through fear, Jake said. But fear only works until someone stands up to the bully. Ryan's voice came through the communication system. Jake, Captain Rodriguez, is requesting permission to board. Granted. Tell him the command center is secure. Minutes later, Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Miller led her Marines onto the Zephrian bridge. The sight of human soldiers in full battle, gear made even the largest Zephrian warriors step back. Sandra approached Jake with a grin. Good to see you, Captain Morrison. Admiral Hayes sends her regards. Good to see you too, Colonel. What's our tactical situation? We've disabled most of their local fleet, but they have a massive force incoming. Dr. Clark estimates we have maybe 10 minutes before they arrive. Jake looked at Vrextal, who was now surrounded by human Marines. 10 minutes to change 3,000 years of history. What do you propose? Sandra asked. Jake walked to the communication console. We're going to do something to Zephrians. Never expected. We're going to offer them a choice. He activated the ship-wide communication system. Attention all Zephrian forces. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel New Horizon. Your command ship is under our control, but we're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to offer you something better. Throughout the Zephrian fleet, warriors listened in stunned silence. For 3,000 years, you've ruled through strength and fear, but we've shown you that there's another way. Intelligence over brutality. Cooperation over competition. Protection over predation. Vrextal struggled against his Marine guards. They will never listen to prey. Watch them, Jake said quietly. On the communication system, voices began responding. Young Zephrian officers, tired of the endless cycle of conquest and violence. Ship commanders who had watched their warriors fall to human tactics and realized that raw strength wasn't everything. Your empire is built on fear, Jake continued. But empires built on fear always fall eventually. We're offering you a chance to build something better. Join us in exploring the galaxy, learning from other species, protecting the weak instead of consuming them. Dr. Clark's voice came through Sandra's radio. Colonel, the incoming fleet is slowing down. Some of their ships are actually stopping. What does that mean? Sandra asked. It means they're listening, Jake replied. Subcommander Grextar stepped forward, his head bowed. Human Morrison. If what you say is true, if there is another way, then perhaps it is time for change. Change is hard, Jake acknowledged, but it's possible. We're not asking you to become weak. We're asking you to become something better than predators. We're asking you to become protectors. War Chief Kazara looked at her commander, then at the humans who had defeated their greatest warriors not through superior strength, but through superior thinking. Commander Vrextal, perhaps the humans are right. Perhaps it is time to evolve. Vrextal looked around the command center. His ship was captured, his fleet disabled, his empire challenged by creatures he had dismissed as prey. But in Jake Morrison's eyes, he saw something he had never encountered before. Strength without cruelty, victory without vengeance. What would you have us do? Help us build a galaxy where strength protects weakness, where intelligence guides action, and where different species work together instead of consuming each other. Dr. Clark's voice came through the radio again. The incoming fleet has stopped. They're requesting instructions from their commander. Jake looked at Vrextal.